and that's it there. It's probably 75–80% dry, but the pants are dry, so I thought we can start the layering there. So okay, now what I do with the pants is I'm going to flip to a different brush. I'm going to go to my fine detail brush, which you'll see has considerably a very fine point. Now what happens here is I'm going to start it's exactly the same as 28mm painting. All these raised edges I will start painting, painting the Luftwaffe uniform back over the top. So something like this, raised edge just here. So we're just gonna start in there. Now the bonus about 15mm is that you don't have to paint as much. Sorry about the light, guys, but simply like that, all those raised edges we start painting, blocking back in with this original colour. Now I do the same with the uniform, but the uniform is slightly different in the way of I'll give it a quick flick of a dry brush. And the reason I do that is for a guideline. Basically the dry brush will leave some of the raised edges that are a little bit more, what you would say, not quite as prominent. It'll allow me to see where they are, then I'll go back over the top and layer again on top of that. So we'll give this a quick dry brush. Just give me a brush a wash. I just got just a normal crappy old brush for dry brushing. Just any brush will do, as long as it's not your good one. And I use my hand. I'll just sort of muck around here until the pores of my skin are just picking up the colour, and I'll give this just a slight. As you can see, if I paint his helmet, it's ever so slight, and the way I just control it by the pores of my skin. So I'll go back over, and basically all this is doing, it's nothing too radical. This is giving me a guideline. If you go too radical, it'll give you a powdery effect, and we don't want that. Plus this will allow, because it is so fine with the background colour, when we go back over like now with the layering, it's a cheap and easy way of giving you a couple of different colours by using one colour, because the colours that are underneath are allowed to show through slightly on the dry brush, which gives you one variation of the German camo beige. Now when we go back straight over with the straight camo beige, it will give you that effect. So we just pick the various highest edges, and away we go. This bit here probably takes me the longest. Now I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to go through and do it, as it just takes so long, and I'll be back. And we're left with something like that. As you can see, the higher edges got that nice bright sheen to them. Gives you that illusion of depth, and up close they look a little bit more full on, but from back on the table it shows out quite nice. Now we're going to do the splinter camo, because in 1942, 1943 the Fallschirmjäger had splinter camo, which is basically a combination of your flat brown. This is what I use. I use a flat brown and a Luftwaffe camo green. Now some people use German camo medium brown. What I find with that is I like to have the little bit of a burgundy effect from the flat brown, and it's just, to me, seems just a little bit more natural, but it is a personal preference. I think the ranges of browns and greens you can use is depending on the style and contrast of the army. Now I start with the brown, as brown is the prominent colour in this. So what I do is I'll pick a spot on the jump schmock, not the belt, but as I haven't blocked in still, but say just here, and try and avoid a bit of the shadow if you can, try and preserve some of that. And what you want to do is as hard as this sounds, you want to try and get nice angular, angular brown patterns, as the splinter camo was very angular. So I like to do a line and maybe just like a little sort of a triangle. I don't know how well this is showing out. I do it a couple of brown splotches here and there. It's random where the patterns are going to be, as long as I think you keep them sort of angular is the secret. Best way to describe it's lines and triangles, I guess. That's the way I sort of do it. So this is why we stick them to a screw. You can get absolutely everywhere. I'm really sorry guys if this isn't showing out real good. It's bloody hard trying to move this figure around on such a small scale and show you guys at the same time. Now, something like that should be enough, because once we add the green, you're starting to get a lot of colour on there. Now they're not really showing out too angular. This one's not. This is sort of a bit round. We'll just add a line like that, and we'll turn that into a slight triangle. Now I go over them a couple of times, give them that so they stick out, something like that. I mean, it's not a complete science. It is a tiny scale. So wash my brush, and now I'm going to go to the camo green, Luftwaffe camo green. Now what I do with the Luftwaffe camo green is I pick a corner of the brown, I paint the corner of the brown and drag an angular piece away from the brown, but I start painting inside the brown. So here, and I pull to a position that's got no paint, of course. Like, you don't want to try and pull it back into a brown, you want to sort of pull it into an open area. And this is absolutely as difficult as hell, trying to show you and do it at the same time. Once again, trying your hardest to keep it. It is so hard to do at this scale, but try and keep them angular. Fucking, that was a bit Gumby. But anyway, let's have a look here, and I'll pull a bit away from that side too, just to give a bit of contrast there. And I like to just darken them up a little bit, just give them a bit of a spot in the middle, give them that little bit extra, take a bit of the transparency away in the middle, gives it a slight, very slight shadow effect as well. So sorry guys, something like that. It doesn't look like much now, but when you start adding all the rest, it starts coming back in. You got to be careful. If you go too overboard with your browns and greens, you'll take a bit of the camo underneath. Now, I see a lot of people, they put the little stripes through the splinter camo. I tried it. I used a really fine brush, and it just was way too much at this scale. So that's the camo brown and the splinter camo. So that's pretty much the hardest bit. I'm going to shy away from this, but that's the technique, and I'm just going to touch it up and get a bit more angularity about it, and we'll be back.